I walked into my cousin's birthday party and my aunt burst into tears the second she saw me. Not happy tears either. The kind that come with heaving sobs and hands covering your mouth like you've seen a ghost. Everyone stopped mid-conversation. Forks hung in the air. Balloons swayed from the ceiling fan. My cousin Brent froze with his birthday cake knife raised. Chocolate frosting smeared on his fingers. "Oh my God," my aunt whispered. "You look just like him." I knew exactly who she meant. Uncle Greg, her husband, who died 6 months ago in a boating accident off the coast. Apparently, I'd inherited more than his old truck and fishing gear. At 23, I'd somehow grown into his exact face. Same jawline, same crooked smile, same way of standing with my weight on one leg. Even my hairline had started receding in the identical pattern. Dad pulled me aside within minutes. "You should go," he said quietly. "This is too much for her." But Mom grabbed my other arm. "No, she needs to see that life goes on." They'd been divorced for 3 years, but somehow my face had reunited them, in an argument, at a child's birthday party. I tried leaving, but Brent caught me at the door. "Please stay," he begged. He was turning 9 and didn't understand why adults were crying. "Mom's been weird since Dad died. Maybe seeing you will help." So I stayed. Worst decision of my life. The party continued in this bizarre fog. Aunt Diane kept staring at me from across the room, mascara streaking down her face. She'd take a bite of cake, glance over, and start crying again. Other relatives whispered. Some avoided eye contact entirely. Others couldn't stop looking. Then came present time. Brent opened his gifts one by one. A new bike, video games, sports equipment, the usual 9-year-old haul, until he reached a large box wrapped in newspaper at the back of the pile. "That's from your father," Aunt Diane said softly. "He bought it before—" She couldn't finish. Brent tore into it with the kind of excitement that made everyone else uncomfortable. Inside was a metal detector, not a toy one, a professional model worth at least $600. "Cool!" Brent shouted. "Can we use it today?" Aunt Diane nodded numbly. That's how I ended up at the beach an hour later, watching my cousin wave a metal detector around while 24 relatives pretended this was normal. The sun was setting. The party had somehow relocated to the sand, and I was standing next to my aunt who kept touching my shoulder like I might disappear. "Greg bought that detector 3 weeks before the accident," she said. "He was obsessed with this legend about a shipwreck off the coast. Said he'd found proof of treasure buried near the old lighthouse. Beep, beep, beep." Brent's detector went crazy. He started digging with his bare hands. Within minutes, he'd unearthed a waterproof case, military grade, sealed tight. Everyone gathered around as he pried it open. Inside were documents, lots of them, and a USB drive, and photographs of people I'd never seen before. My aunt's face went white. She grabbed the case and started shoving everything back inside. But not before I saw one of the photos clearly. Uncle Greg, alive and well, standing next to a woman who definitely wasn't my aunt, with a little girl who looked exactly like Brent, same age, same features, holding hands in front of a house with a home sweet home sign. The photo is dated 2 months ago, 4 months after Uncle Greg supposedly drowned, 4 months after we buried an empty casket because they never found his body. My aunt looked at me, then at the case, then back at me. "You knew," she whispered. "That's why you came. Greg told you where to find this." I had no idea what she was talking about, but before I could say anything, she grabbed my shirt. "Where is he? Where's my husband?" That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text just said, "Sorry, kid. Needed someone to take the fall. Check the truck's glove box." The truck. Uncle Greg's old Ford F-150 that he'd left to me in his will. The one I'd been driving for the past 6 months. The one currently parked 3 blocks away at my apartment. My aunt saw my face change. She grabbed my phone before I could stop her. "Take the fall?" she read out loud. Her voice cracked. "Take the fall for what?" Everyone was staring now. Dad pushed through the crowd. "What's going on?" Mom right behind him. "Is that from Greg?" I grabbed my phone back. "I don't know who this is. Probably a prank." But my hands were shaking, and my aunt noticed. "You're lying," she said. Her voice had gone flat. "Dangerous. He's been in contact with you this whole time, hasn't he? That's why he left you the truck. That's why you look so much like him. You were helping him." "That's insane," I said. "I thought he was dead. We all did." Brent was crying now, holding his metal detector, surrounded by adults shouting. His birthday party had turned into something else entirely, something ugly. Dad grabbed my arm. "We need to talk. Now." He pulled me away from the beach. Mom and Aunt Diane followed. We ended up in the parking lot, standing between cars while the sun finished setting. The rest of the family stayed on the beach, probably dissecting every interaction I'd ever had with Uncle Greg. "Start talking," Dad said. "There's nothing to talk about. I got a weird text. That's it." Aunt Diane lunged at me. Actually lunged. Mom caught her. "You knew he was alive. You've known this whole time." "I didn't, I swear." "Then why did he text you?" Mom asked quietly. "Why you specifically?" I didn't have an answer. Dad's face had gone red, the way it used to before he and Mom would start screaming at each other. "The truck," he said. "Greg left you that truck. What else did he leave you?" "Nothing. Just the truck and some fishing gear." "Bullshit." Aunt Diane had stopped struggling against Mom. "Greg didn't do anything without a reason. If he left you that truck, there's something in it. Something he wanted you to find. The glove box." The text had said to check the glove box. "Fine," I said. "Let's go check." We drove to my apartment in separate cars, a weird convoy of family drama. By the time we got there, my hands had stopped shaking and started sweating instead. What was I about to find? What had Uncle Greg left me? The truck sat in its usual spot, dented, rusty. the bed still filled with old fishing equipment I'd been meaning to sort through. I'd driven this thing every day for 6 months and never once thought to really search it. I unlocked the passenger door. Everyone crowded around. The glove box popped open easily. Inside was an envelope, thick, sealed with tape. My name written on the front in Uncle Greg's handwriting. Aunt Diane tried to grab it, but I was faster. I ripped it open. There was money inside. A lot of money. Rubber-banded stacks of hundreds. Had to be at least $20,000, maybe more. And a letter. I started reading out loud before anyone could stop me. Hey kid, if you're reading this, things went according to plan. Sorry for the drama, but I needed someone the family would trust. Someone who could play the grieving nephew convincingly. You were perfect. Young enough not to ask questions. Trusting enough to accept the truck without searching it. And let's face it, you look exactly like me. That helped sell the whole thing. My voice was shaking now. By now you've probably figured out I'm not dead. The boat thing was staged. Cost me 15 grand to make it look real, but worth every penny. Had to get out. Had debts. Bad debts. The kind where people show up at your house at 3 a.m. with crowbars. The kind where your wife and kid become collateral. I glanced at Aunt Diane. She'd gone completely still. So I made a deal. Faked my death. Started fresh somewhere else. Used your identity to set up some bank accounts before I left. Opened a few credit cards. Nothing major. You're young. Good credit. You'll bounce back. Sorry about that, by the way. But like I said, I needed someone to take the fall while the heat died down. The letter continued, but my hands had started shaking too hard to hold it steady. Dad grabbed it from me and kept reading. The money in this envelope is payment. Should cover whatever credit damage I caused. Maybe a little extra for your trouble. Don't try to find me. I'm gone. New name, new life, new family. Yeah, you probably saw the pictures by now. Met someone a few years ago. Fell in love. Real love. Not the obligation kind. We have a daughter. She's 3. Looks just like Brent, right? That's because she is. Or was. Diane knew I was cheating but never said anything. Probably thought ignoring it would make it go away. It didn't. It just made me want to leave even more. Anyway, good luck, kid. You're going to need it. Uncle Greg. Silence. Then Aunt Diane started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind that sounds like breaking glass. He has another daughter. Another child. And I've been mourning him for 6 months. Mom touched her shoulder. Diane, I'm so sorry. Sorry? My aunt wheeled on her. Your son just admitted he's been complicit in fraud. Greg used him to open credit cards. Used his identity. I didn't know, I shouted. I had no idea. Dad was still reading the letter. His face had gone pale. There's more. He lists the accounts he opened. 5 credit cards, a personal loan, a car lease, all in your name, all currently delinquent. My stomach dropped. What? You've got about $60,000 in debt right now. Collections agencies are probably already looking for you. The 20 grand in the envelope suddenly seemed pathetic. He said it would cover the damage. He lied, Dad said flatly. Greg always lied. I can't believe I trusted him with power of attorney over Mom's estate after she died. Can't believe I signed half the business over to him. Can't believe any of us fell for his bullshit. He was my husband, Aunt Diane whispered. The father of my child. He was a con man, Dad said. And he played all of us. But especially you. He pointed at me. You look like him. You drive his truck. You were at his wife's house tonight at his son's birthday party. When those collection agencies come calling, you're the one they're going to find. Not Greg. You. The full weight of it hit me then. Uncle Greg hadn't just faked his death. He'd created a perfect patsy. Someone young. Someone who looked exactly like him. Someone who'd inherited his stuff and his debts. Mom was the first to say it out loud. He framed you. I spent that night at my parents' house. Couldn't face going back to the apartment. Couldn't face being alone with what I just learned. Dad called a lawyer friend who specialized in fraud cases. Mom made phone calls to credit agencies. Aunt Diane sat on the couch staring at nothing. Brent had stayed with a cousin for the night. Probably better. No 9-year-old needed to watch his entire family implode. The lawyer confirmed my worst fears. I was legally responsible for everything Greg had opened in my name. My credit was destroyed. I had collection agencies actively looking for me, and proving I wasn't the one who'd opened those accounts would be nearly impossible. But I have his letter, I said. He admitted to everything. Written confession from a dead man, the lawyer said. Except he's not really dead, is he? He's just gone. Could be anywhere. Mexico, Canada. Could have changed his name 5 times by now. Without Greg's testimony or physical proof that he's alive, you're still holding the bag. What about the photos? The ones Brent found? Photos prove someone who looks like Greg is alive somewhere. But you look just like Greg too. You said so yourself. Any lawyer worth their salt will argue those could be you, especially since you're the one in possession of them. I felt sick. Your best bet, the lawyer continued, is to file a police report for identity theft. Start gathering evidence that you weren't in the locations where these accounts were opened. Bank records, timestamps, anything proving your whereabouts, and pray that Greg screwed up somewhere, left a paper trail, made a mistake. But Greg didn't make mistakes. That's what I was learning. He'd planned this for months, maybe years, every detail carefully arranged. The fake death, the treasure hunter story, the will that left me just enough to seem generous, the resemblance everyone commented on, all of it designed to make me the perfect scapegoat. Dad walked the lawyer out. When he came back, his face was hard. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest, okay? Did you help him? At all? Even a little? No, I swear. I thought he was dead. Because if you knew anything. I didn't. My voice cracked. Why would I help someone destroy my credit, saddle me with debt, make my life hell? Dad studied my face for a long time, then nodded. Okay, I believe you. Do you? Mom asked from the doorway. Because I'm not sure I do. That hurt more than anything Greg had done. How can you say that? I asked. Because you look exactly like him. Because he left you his truck. Because you were the one he chose. Out of everyone in this family, he chose you. And I need to know why. I don't know why. Then figure it out, she said coldly. Because until you do, I can't look at you without seeing him. She left the room. I heard her bedroom door slam. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. She's just upset. Give her time. But I knew it was more than that. Mom had never liked Greg. Called him slippery. Said he smiled too much for someone with nothing to hide. She'd warned Aunt Diane before the wedding. Warned Dad before going into business with him. And now, looking at me, she saw the same thing. The same smile. The same face. The same potential for betrayal. I spent the next 3 days trying to untangle the mess. Filed police reports. Contacted fraud departments. Disputed charges. Every agency wanted documentation. Proof of identity theft. Evidence I wasn't just a deadbeat trying to escape debt. But I didn't have evidence. I had a letter from a man who was legally dead, photos that could have been doctored, and a face that looked exactly like the guy who'd committed the fraud. The collections calls started on day 4. 7 different agencies. All polite at first, then increasingly aggressive. They wanted money. $60,000 I didn't have. A debt I didn't create. For a life I didn't live. But I filed police reports. I kept saying, identity theft. It's fraud. Then provide evidence of fraud, they'd respond. Until then, you're legally responsible. Aunt Diane stopped speaking to me. She'd moved out of the house she'd shared with Greg, moved in with her sister, put everything up for sale. The life insurance company was investigating the claim she'd filed 6 months ago. Turned out you can't collect on someone who isn't actually dead. She'd have to pay it all back, plus penalties. This is your fault, she told me when I tried calling. If you'd been honest from the start, if you'd told us you were helping him, I wasn't helping him, then why did he choose you? Why not someone else? I didn't have an answer for that either. Dad suggested I move home for a while, save money, figure things out. But Mom vetoed it. She didn't want me in the house. Didn't want to wake up and see Greg's face at the breakfast table. It's not his fault, Dad argued. He's the victim here. Is he? Mom shot back. Or is this exactly what Greg wanted? His nephew taking the heat while he lives happily ever after with his new family. Their marriage had been rocky before. This pushed it over the edge. Dad moved into the guest room. They stopped speaking except through me. Another thing I could add to Greg's list of destroyed relationships. Work became impossible. I'd started a new job 3 months ago. Entry-level marketing. Low pay, but decent benefits. My boss called me into his office 6 weeks after the birthday party. We need to talk about some discrepancies. My heart sank. What kind of discrepancies? Your background check came back with some red flags. Credit issues, outstanding debts, collection agencies. You claimed you had no financial problems when you were hired. Because I didn't. Those debts aren't mine. Then whose are they? My uncle's. He committed identity theft, used my information to open accounts. I'm working with lawyers and police to clear it up. My boss didn't look convinced. How long will that take? I don't know. Weeks? Months? We can't have employees with active fraud investigations. It's a liability. I'm going to have to let you go. But I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe not. But until this is resolved, we can't risk it. I cleaned out my desk that afternoon. 6 weeks of employment. Terminated because of crimes I didn't commit. Because of a face I didn't choose. Because Uncle Greg needed someone to take the fall. The landlord evicted me 2 weeks later. My credit had tanked. The background check for my lease renewal came back denied. I had 30 days to vacate. I couldn't afford a new place. Couldn't pass a credit check. Couldn't get approved for anything. So I packed what I could fit in the truck and started sleeping in it. Park to park. Rest stop to rest stop. The same truck Greg had left me. The same truck that had started all of this. I thought about selling it. Thought about torching it. But it was the only thing I had left. My entire life compressed into a rusted F-150 with a bad transmission. Dad would slip me money when Mom wasn't looking. 20s and 50s folded into handshakes. Just until you get back on your feet, he'd say. But we both knew there was no getting back on my feet. Not while Greg's debt shadowed every application, every job prospect, every attempt at normal life. I started growing my beard out. Let my hair get longer. Tried to look less like Uncle Greg. But the resemblance was in the bone structure. The jaw, the eyes. You can't hide genetics. 3 months after the birthday party, I was parked behind a 24-hour diner, trying to make a single coffee last 4 hours, when a woman sat down across from me. She was mid-30s, professional clothes, tired eyes. "You're Greg's nephew," she said. Not a question. I tensed. "Who are you?" "My name is Patricia. I'm a private investigator. Your aunt hired me to find Greg." "Good luck with that." "I already found him." I looked up fast. "What?" "Wasn't easy. He covered his tracks well. New name, new social security number, fake ID, but he made one mistake. The daughter. He couldn't resist claiming her on his taxes for the deduction, filed jointly with his new wife last year, and tax fraud leaves a paper trail. Where is he? Raleigh, North Carolina. Works at a car dealership. Lives in a suburb called Cary. Nice house, white picket fence, the whole American dream. I felt something hot and sharp rise in my chest. He's just living his life while I'm sleeping in his truck? Pretty much. Patricia pulled out a folder. Here's everything I found. Home address, work address, his wife's name, the daughter's name, bank accounts, even his new social security number, though that's technically illegal for me to have given you. She slid the folder across the table. Why are you giving this to me? Because your aunt paid me to find him. Not to do anything about it, that's your choice. But, between you and me, she leaned in close. Guys like Greg don't stop. They just move to the next victim, the next scam. If you don't stop him, he'll do this to someone else. What am I supposed to do? I can't prove anything. Can't you? Patricia tapped the folder. Bank records showing accounts opened in your name from an IP address in Raleigh. Security footage from the bank where he applied for your loan. Photos of him from last week, very much alive, with his new family. All time-stamped, all documented, all very, very illegal. And if I go to the police, they'll investigate, probably issue a warrant. But Greg will see them coming. He'll disappear again. Change his name. Start over somewhere else. Guys like him always do. Then what? Patricia stood up. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. Right now, everyone thinks you're complicit. Your family, your former employer, every credit agency in the country. You want that to change? You want your life back? You need Greg to confess, publicly, on record, and he's only going to do that if you make him. She left the folder and walked out. I sat there for an hour, staring at Greg's new address, his new life, the photos of him smiling with his new wife and daughter. The daughter who looked like Brent, who was Brent's half-sister, who'd never met her brother, who probably thought her daddy was a car salesman named Dennis instead of a con artist named Greg. Dad called while I was sitting there. Where are you? Doesn't matter. Your aunt's investigator found Greg. She's pressing charges. You need to come give a statement. I know. She just told me. Then get down to the police station. They're building a case. Identity theft, fraud, tax evasion. They want you to testify. What if he runs? Then we find him again. And again. Until he can't run anymore. But I knew Greg. He'd been 3 steps ahead this entire time. If the police came knocking, he'd vanish. And I'd still be left holding the debt. Still be left with his face. Still be left as the guy everyone thought was either complicit or stupid. I made a decision. Instead of going to the police, I drove to Raleigh. 10 hours straight. Didn't stop except for gas. Used the last of Dad's money to fill the tank. The same truck Greg had left me, taking me to confront the man who'd destroyed my life. I reached Raleigh at 3 a.m., found his house easily. The white one with the picket fence, flowers in the garden, American flag by the door, a trampoline in the yard for his daughter. Everything perfect and suburban and fake. I parked across the street, waited for sunrise. At 6:30 a.m., the front door opened. Greg stepped out. He looked different, heavier, hair dyed darker, but still recognizably him, still recognizably me. He was wearing a polo shirt with the car dealership logo, carrying a travel mug, living his best life. I got out of the truck. He saw me and froze. His face went white. The travel mug slipped from his hand and shattered on the driveway. Hey, Uncle Greg, I said. Or should I call you Dennis? He looked around frantically, probably checking if I'd brought the police. How did you find me? Does it matter? You need to leave, right now, before you ruin everything. Before I ruin everything? I laughed. It sounded bitter even to my own ears. You already did that. You ruined my credit, my job, my relationships, my entire life, and you did it on purpose. I gave you money. 20 grand for 60 grand of debt. You're still 40,000 short. It was all I could spare. Bullshit. You bought a house, a nice one. You've got a car dealership job, a new wife. You're not struggling. His jaw tightened. The same jaw we shared. What do you want? I want you to confess. I want you to tell everyone what you did. Clear my name. Take responsibility. I can't do that. Why not? Because if I do, I go to jail. My family loses everything. My daughter, you mean Brent's sister? The one he doesn't know exists? Greg flinched. That was complicated. No, it wasn't. You were cheating on your wife, got another woman pregnant, decided you wanted that family more than your first one. So you faked your death, framed me, and started over. Nothing complicated about it. You're just a selfish asshole. I had debts, bad debts. If I'd stayed, they would have killed me. So you let me take the fall instead. You're young. You'll bounce back. Bad credit isn't permanent. Neither is your new life. I pulled out my phone. 1 call. That's all it takes. 1 call to the police and your nice suburban existence ends. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? I've got nothing left to lose, Greg. You made sure of that. We stood there. 2 men with the same face. One of us had everything. The other had nothing. And the only thing separating us was circumstance and choice. Greg's wife appeared in the doorway. Pretty. Mid-30s, holding a little girl with his eyes. Dennis? Who's that? Nobody, Greg said quickly. Wrong house. He looks just like you. Just a coincidence. The little girl was staring at me. She couldn't have been more than 3. Completely innocent. Completely unaware that her father was a criminal, that her existence had helped destroy another family, that she had a brother named Brent who missed his dad. Don't do this, Greg said quietly. Please, think about what you're doing. That little girl in there, she's done nothing wrong. Her mother's done nothing wrong. They don't deserve to have their lives destroyed because I made mistakes. What about Brent? Doesn't he deserve a father? Brent's better off without me. And what about me? Am I better off taking the blame for your crimes? Greg's face hardened. You want money? Is that it? How much? I don't want your money. I want my life back. Then take it. File disputes. Hire lawyers. Fight the charges. You're innocent. The system will figure it out eventually. The system thinks I'm you. Everyone thinks I'm you. My own mother can't look at me without seeing your face. So change your face. Grow a beard. Cut your hair. Get plastic surgery if you have to, but leave me alone. His wife called from the door again. Dennis, you're going to be late for work. Greg turned away. Actually turned his back on me. Like I was nothing. Like the past 6 months of hell he'd put me through didn't matter. I could have called the police right then. Should've. But seeing him walk away, seeing how easily he dismissed everything, I realized something. Greg didn't feel guilty. He didn't feel anything. In his mind, he'd made a smart business decision. Cutting losses, protecting his investment. I was just collateral damage. Calling the police wouldn't change that. Even if he went to jail, even if he lost everything, he'd still believe he'd done what he had to do. He'd still think he was the victim. I needed him to understand, really understand, what it felt like to have your life taken from you. So I didn't call the police. Instead, I went to his car dealership, walked in at 9 a.m. When it opened, asked to speak with Dennis about a truck trade-in. They paged him overhead. Greg appeared from the back office, saw me sitting in the waiting area. His face went pale again. We need to talk, I said. I told you to leave, and I told you I want my life back. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me $50,000, cash, to cover the debt plus damages. You're going to sign a written confession, admitting to identity theft. And you're going to make a video statement I can show to credit agencies, my family, and anyone else who needs to see it. Or what? Or I tell your boss who you really are. I tell your wife about Diane and Brent. I tell everyone in this nice suburban life you built that Dennis doesn't exist, that you're actually a con man named Greg who faked his death to escape debt. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice. Take responsibility or lose everything. Same choice you gave me 6 months ago. Greg's boss walked over. Friendly smile, gray hair. Everything okay here, Dennis? Fine, Greg said through clenched teeth. Just an old friend. Well, don't leave him waiting. Show him our inventory. Greg led me outside. We stood next to the display cars. Shiny new models with inflated price tags. He was breathing hard, angry. I don't have $50,000. Then get it. You've got 1 week. And if I can't? I pulled out Patricia's folder, showed him the photos, the bank records, the proof. Then this all goes public, and your new life ends. You're destroying an innocent family. No, you did that. I'm just making you face it. Greg grabbed my arm, tight enough to hurt. You think you're better than me? You think you wouldn't do the same thing in my position? I know I wouldn't. Everyone's got a breaking point. Mine was $60,000 in gambling debt and a broken marriage. What's yours? I don't have one. He laughed, sharp and mean. Then you haven't lived long enough. I yanked my arm free. 1 week, 50,000, written confession, video statement, or I burn your life down. I left him standing there. The week crawled by. I spent it sleeping in the truck, waiting, wondering if Greg would actually pay or if he'd run again. Part of me hoped he'd run. At least then I could claim I tried. On day 6, he called. I've got the money and the confession, but I need something from you first. What? A guarantee that once I give you this, you disappear. No police, no talking to Diane, no contacting my wife. You take the money and vanish. How do I know you'll actually pay? You don't, but I'm offering you a way out. Take it. We met at a rest stop halfway between Raleigh and where I'd been camping. Greg showed up in his car, different plates than the one at his house, probably a dealer car he'd borrowed. He handed me a duffel bag. I opened it. Cash, stacked neatly. Had to be close to 50,000. Count it if you want, he said. I did. Took 20 minutes. Exactly 50,000. He handed me a folder next. Inside was a written confession, 3 pages, detailing every account he'd opened, every debt he'd created, every lie he'd told, signed and dated. And the video? Greg held up his phone, pressed play. On the screen, he sat in what looked like a hotel room. My name is Gregory Patrick Morrison. 6 months ago, I faked my death to escape debt and start a new life. To do this, I committed identity theft against my nephew. I opened multiple credit accounts in his name without his knowledge or permission. I take full responsibility for these actions. My nephew is innocent. The video was 2 minutes long, clear, unambiguous, exactly what I needed. Happy? Greg asked. I took the phone, downloaded the video. Yeah, then we're done. You got what you wanted. I get to keep my life. Everyone wins, except Diane and Brent. They'll be fine. Diane will remarry. Brent will forget about me eventually. Kids are resilient. You really believe that? I have to. We stood there for a moment. 2 versions of the same person. One who'd chosen the easy way. One who'd been forced to take the hard way. I don't get it, I said finally. You had a family, a business, a life. Why throw it all away? Because it wasn't my life. It was the life everyone expected me to have. Diane was supposed to be the perfect wife. Brent was supposed to be the perfect son. The business was supposed to make me happy, but it didn't. None of it did. So when I met someone who actually made me happy, someone who wanted me for me, not for what I could provide, I made a choice. A selfish choice. Maybe, but it was mine. He got back in his car. Don't contact me again. Don't come to my house. Don't call. As far as you're concerned, Greg Morrison died 6 months ago. Keep it that way. He drove off. I sat in the truck, staring at the duffel bag full of money, the confession that would clear my name, the video that would prove my innocence. I'd gotten everything I'd asked for, so why did I feel hollow? I drove back home. Took 2 days, Stopped at cheap motels, ate fast food, thought about everything that had happened, everything I'd lost, everything I'd learned. When I finally pulled into my hometown, I went straight to Aunt Diane's sister's house. She answered the door. Looked older than I remembered, tired. What do you want? I need to talk to her. She doesn't want to see you. I know, but she needs to see this. I showed her the folder, the confession. She read it. Her face went through a dozen emotions. Anger, relief, sadness. Come in. Aunt Diane was in the living room. She'd lost weight. Her hair was grayer. Seeing me made her flinch, but she didn't look away. I found him, I said. I told her everything. The investigation, the drive to Raleigh, the confrontation, the blackmail, the confession. I showed her the video, let her watch Greg admit to everything. She cried, not the heaving sobs from the birthday party. Quieter, sadder, the kind of crying that comes when you finally accept something you've been denying. So he's really alive, she said when the video ended. Yeah, and he has another family. Yeah, and he never loved me. I don't know. Maybe he did, once, but people change. Or maybe they just stop pretending. She looked at the confession again. What are you going to do with this? Clear my name, fix my credit, get my life back. And then? I don't know. Start over, somewhere far away from here. What about Greg? Are you going to the police? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. Why not? Because he has a daughter. A little girl who thinks he's a good person. If I turn him in, I destroy her life too. And she doesn't deserve that. Neither did Brent. I know. Aunt Diane stood up, walked to the window, stared out at nothing. I want to hate you. You look just like him. Every time I see your face, I see his. But you're not him, are you? No. You could have run. You could have taken that money and disappeared. But you came here. You gave me the truth. That's more than Greg ever did. She turned around. Thank you. For what? For being better than him. I left shortly after. Gave her the confession. Told her she could do whatever she wanted with it. Press charges, send it to the insurance company, or burn it. Her choice, she kept it. I used the $50,000 to pay off Greg's debts. Hired a lawyer to help dispute the remaining charges. Sent copies of the confession to every credit agency, every collection firm, every company that had marked me delinquent. It took 8 months, but my credit slowly recovered. The fraud designation helped. The written confession helped more. Eventually, the debts were removed. The marks erased. My name cleared. I got a new job. Different city. Different state. Somewhere nobody knew about Uncle Greg or his fake death or the nephew who looked just like him. I grew my beard out. Started wearing glasses even though I didn't need them. Changed my walk. My posture. The way I smiled. Small things, subtle things, enough to make me look less like him and more like myself. Mom called 6 months after I'd moved. I'm sorry, she said. I should have believed you from the start. It's okay. It's not. I looked at you and saw him. I thought you were capable of the same things. But you're not. You're better. I'm not better. I just made different choices. That's what makes you better. Dad and Mom got back together. Slowly, carefully. Like two people learning to trust each other again. Greg's betrayal had nearly destroyed their relationship, but surviving it together made them stronger. Weird how that works. Brent's in therapy now. Aunt Diane told me he asks about his dad sometimes, wonders where he went, why he left. She doesn't have good answers, just tells him that sometimes adults make complicated choices, that love isn't always enough, that families break in ways you can't always fix. He doesn't know about his sister in Raleigh, doesn't know his dad is alive and well. Diane decided some truths are too heavy for a kid to carry. Maybe she's right. I think about Greg sometimes, wonder if he's happy in his new life, if he ever thinks about Brent, if he feels any guilt at all. Probably not. Guys like Greg don't do guilt, they do survival. They do whatever it takes to get what they want, and maybe I'm not so different. I blackmailed him, threatened to destroy his family, used the same ruthless logic he'd used on me. Does that make me better than him? Or just another version of the same thing? I don't know. What I do know is this. I got my life back. Not the one I had before. That's gone. But a new one. Different. Harder. But mine. And unlike Greg, I didn't have to destroy anyone to get it. I just had to be willing to confront the man who tried to erase me. The man with my face. The man I refused to become. Last month I changed my name legally. Didn't change it much. Just enough to distance myself from the Morrison family, from Uncle Greg's legacy, from the resemblance that had defined me for too long. Dad asked why. You're cleared now. The debt's gone. Everyone knows the truth. Because every time someone meets me and says, you look just like your uncle, I have to relive it. Every time I see a photo of Greg, I see myself. And I'm tired of being a ghost of someone else's bad decisions. He understood, or pretended to. Either way, he signed the paperwork. My new name is simple, unremarkable. The kind of name that doesn't carry weight or history or the expectation that you'll turn out like the person who came before you. I'm just me now, not Greg's nephew, not the kid who got framed, not the guy who looks like a dead man, just me, and maybe that's enough.